Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. Today I am so happy to sew along with you the Callie Crossbody bag by Sew Yours. I tell you, Melissa is just an amazingly talented pattern writer. As you know, her patterns are one of my favorites. Let me show you some of the amazing features of this bag. So as you can see, it leaves great opportunity to do an accent panel on the front and the back. I've also seen this done where this is all vinyl in the back with your cotton fabric in the front. This is a very minimal interfacing bag, which is amazing. It is suggested in the pattern that if you do this in all vinyls, that you don't need to worry about any interfacing, except for if you're using cotton pieces on your lining. Of course, you would back those with a medium woven interfacing. If you are using cottons, it is recommended to fuse fusible fleece to your lining panels. So if you're using cotton on your linings, you would of course do the woven interfacing first, and then you would put the fleece on that and not on your exterior. I did mine a little bit different, as I did it in a mixture of faux leathers and cottons. So my cotton pieces here, I actually have OD coated because it's a lighter color and I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to get dirty, but I really wanted to use this this amazing, I believe it's Michael Miller fabric that I got from Heather's Fabric Shop. I just loved it. So I did do my 3 layers of OD coat. Again, if you need a tutorial on how to do OD coat, I just uploaded one to the channel. So check out my Bagmaker Basics 101 playlist and you'll figure out how to OD coat from there. Because I have vinyl on this as well, I didn't want to interface all of my lining pieces with fleece, so I put my fleece on the back of my front and back cotton panels, of course, woven interfacing, and then the fleece. But if you're doing it in all cottons, definitely follow the pattern as to her interfacing thing. Our suggestions, again, if you wanted it to be a less of a slouchy bag and a more structured bag, it would be very easy to incorporate foam or Decovil Heavy into those pieces if you like. This is, as you can see, it is a slouchy bag. It's kind of soft, but it is super nice. Okay, let me show you some of the features of this bag. So, of course, it has its crossbody strap. Underneath this panel here, you have a large hidden zipper pocket. That was super fun to learn how to do. I've never done one of those before. On the back, we have a horizontal slip pocket or zipper pocket that goes all the way in. It is a top zip closure. And then on the inside, I fancied up my slip pockets and my zipper pockets, of course, with the way I do all of them. You can do them as per the pattern or like I do. So I got a zipper pocket on one side, 2 slip pockets on the other side. Besides those lining slip pockets and zipper pockets, I didn't change this up too much. I did leave an opening in the bottom of the lining and an opening in the bottom of my zipper pockets, so I could turn it through the bottom of the bag, and then I sealed up or sewed up the bottom of the bag through the zipper pocket. Again, I show you all of that in this tutorial. What did I use? Again, this fabric here is a Michael Miller fabric. I don't remember. Well, actually, I have the salvage right here. I can read it to you. It is from Michael Miller Fabrics, and this is the Sunny Delight line, brand new line from Michael Miller that was released at Heather's Fabric Shop here in Kamloops. My faux leather is the charcoal Mora faux leather from Emmeline Bags. My zipper pulls are from Zipper Box up here in Canada. My zipper is from Blue Cala. All my other hardware is from Emmeline Bags. Again, I use my woven interfacing I used in this is EBFuse Lite, which is a medium woven interfacing similar to SF101 or Woven Fuse. I get that from Emmeline Bags. I used the fusible fleece as my main stabilizer, a Pellon low loft fusible fleece. Again, I got that from Emmeline Bags. There's a piece of Decovil Heavy in the bottom just to give it a little bit more structure in the bottom. Again, I get that from Emmeline Bags. What else? What else? The OD coat that I did put on my cotton pieces, I bought that from Emmeline Bags. Emmeline is definitely one of my one-stop shops for bag making stuff. What else? What else? Thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your amazing talent with us. Once again, bravo, another amazing pattern. This bag was not a hard sew at all. I would say it would be great for a boisterous beginner to intermediate, but I think even a beginner could do it. Just take it slow, follow along with mine and Melissa's tutorials if you need to. I'll try to remember to put a link to Melissa's tutorial down in the description. There's a link to the pattern down in the description. What else? I think that's really all there is to say about this bag. Anyways, let's get to making it. All right, so you're going to need some rivets, number 5 zipper tape. Now I only show 3 pulls here, but you actually need 4, a slider. I'm using rectangular rings because I'm not making my crossbody detachable. Optional 4 strap ends, a metal zipper end, and then a cotton or a vinyl zipper end. So here are my overlays for my fancy pockets on the inside, my front exterior top panel, my crossbody strap piece, my connector pieces, my middle accent piece, my gussets, 2 lining and 2 exterior, my lining upper piece, my exterior zipper pocket piece, a slip pocket piece, a zipper pocket lining overlay, zipper pocket interior panels, front exterior pocket, your exterior and your lining piece, your main body pieces, 1 exterior, 2 lining. And then you're going to also fold over this pattern piece D on that line, and that is going to give you your lining for your front zipper pocket, as well as your Decovil Heavy piece for the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and do my crossbody strap off camera. There is a class for that down below in the description if you need it. Next, we're going to work on our accent piece. You're going to take it and you're going to draw a halfway mark line down the middle. You can go ahead and use clips here if your machine does not like double-sided tape. I'm going to use double-sided tape. I'm going to apply some along the long edges and then fold those long edges down into that center line that we marked. I am also going to take some more double-sided tape. I'm going to move into my 1/2-inch double-sided tape and apply on the wrong side of this all the way down outside of the seam allowances where we will be top stitching. I'm going to take my front exterior pocket piece, find my top and bottom centers, and put in some small clips. And then from those center marks, I'm going to measure over 3/4 of an inch from those center marks on the left and the right of them, on the top and the bottom, and that is going to help us get our accent strip nice and centered. So our accent strip is a 1.5-inch piece, so that is made 1.5-inch marks, and then I can just kind of find my basic placement like so. If it's not quite centered, definitely go ahead and double check. I cut my accent piece slightly too long, so I'm going to trim that up and then make sure it is definitely centered. Adjust accordingly. And then we're going to take this to the machine and we are going to top stitch down each of the folded edges with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, next we're going to take our zipper for our front hidden pocket. I cut mine to 12 inches long. What you're going to do is at the end where your zipper pull is closing to, you're going to fold down the edges at a 90-degree angle like so and secure with clips. This is creating a zipper stop here. So again, this is at the end where your zipper pulls close to, so upwards, and then we're going to go and baste that in place. Okay, once that's done, you can go ahead and just trim those little wings off nice and even with your zipper tape. And then the opposite end, we are going to even this up and cut it to 11 inches like so. Next, I'm doing this a little different. I am using a vinyl zipper end. So I'm putting my vinyl piece right sides together with my zipper tape. And we're going to sew across there with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you're using a cotton fabric zipper end, definitely follow Melissa's instructions in her video or her pattern to do that. This one you can only do with non-fraying materials. Okay, once you have that 1/2 inch seam sewn, we are going to use that seam as our guide for folding this over. So you're going to fold it up like this and then fold it along that 1/2 inch seam where that zipper tape is, and that is going to give us a 1/2 inch zipper end here. You're going to notice the back side, it's a little bit longer. That is okay. We will trim that up shortly. Go ahead and top stitch along the seam between the zipper teeth and onto the vinyl side there. Just like so. Go ahead and trim this up to be the same width as our zipper tape. And then flip it over and we can trim that raw edge up nice and even like so. And there we go. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to measure in a 1/2 inch from each side of the lining zipper pocket for the front. And I'm going to use some double-sided tape. Again, if your machine does not like double-sided tape, use clips wherever I'm using the double-sided tape. And we are going to put our zipper tape right side up with the pull closing to the left. Or sorry, the pull closing to the right. I almost got that wrong. In between those 1/2 inch marks, nice and centered. Again, your zipper pull will be closing to the left. You can go ahead and baste that in place if you like. I'm going to go ahead and save a step, use a little more double-sided tape. Again, you can use clips. Take my exterior front pocket piece here, put some tape along the top, and then put it right sides together with the lining and that zipper tape. Go ahead and we're going to sew across here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, whenever I'm working with zippers, I strongly recommend changing into a zipper foot. I am putting on my right zipper foot here. It just helps get a nice and even seam and a nice and straight zipper. You'll definitely want to do this when it comes to doing that top zipper at the end. So go ahead and sew across here with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once that is done, we want to end up putting these two panels wrong size together. You can either finger press it, depending on what you've used for fabrics, go ahead and iron it. Because I have an OD coated layer here, I don't want to iron it, so I'm going to use some double-sided tape to hold my seam in place. Again, you can finger press and use clips. Press this nice and tight away from the zipper teeth, and then bring your lining side around the same way so they are wrong sides together. Again, I'm on an industrial, so I use a lot of double-sided tape. So don't feel that you have to do what your machine likes. Clips work just as well, and so does pressing. So pull these nice and even together and clip our raw edges all the way around. And then what we're going to do is we are going to baste those raw edges together and top stitch right along the zipper tape there. Okay, so now we're going to take our exterior top panel. We want to find the centers of the top and bottom straight edges. We also want to mark the center of our zipper tape. It works out to be about 6 inches from the front pocket panel there. Make sure it is centered. Along the long side of our top panel, I'm going to once again use double-sided tape. Use clips if you prefer. And we are going to put this nice and centered, right sides together over top of the unsewn side of that zipper tape. You can go ahead and baste that if you like. Again, I'm going to skip a step. I'm going to take my lining top panel here, put some tape along the bottom straight edge. Flip over this panel so our lining pieces are right sides together, and put this right sides together along that same unsewn edge of zipper tape, nice and centered. And then we're going to go ahead and sew across here with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, once that is done, you want to do just like we did before. We want to put our lining and our exterior pieces wrong sides together. Again, I am using my double-sided tape to help me get that seam nice and tight. Finger pressing and pressing will do the same trick. And I've gone ahead and top stitch through that top here. And now we're into the magic of that hidden pocket. This was so much fun to do. So what we want to do is we want to flip that top exterior panel to the back like so. And we want this to be about 1 inch from the zipper tape here. And then we're going to go ahead and we are going to top stitch that with 1/4 inch seam allowance. So this would be 1 inch that we have kind of folded up and the rest is folded to the back. You'll see what we're doing here. I know this seems a little odd at first, but it is truly genius. Okay, so now that that's done, we kind of have this lip here, and what you're going to do is you are going to fold this lip over top of the zipper, hiding it, and you'll see how our panels line up. I'm just going to put a few clips there to make sure they're lined up, and just in those small little areas there, I'm going to go ahead and baste them just to hold that in place. So just where that lip is going over, just to make sure that it is not going to slide when we go to finish up this pocket. But super amazing how that works, and that pocket, zipper pocket, is completely hidden now. Okay, so now that you see that's done, we're going to flip this over. We're going to take our D1 piece, which is the lining piece. It should fit here almost exactly. Mine is a little bit big. That's okay. We can trim it up. So we're going to first go ahead and just from where we basted that folded down part, that's where we're going to start. We're not going to go above that, but we're going to clip all the way down from pretty much where the top stitching was of that lip that's coming down. And we are just going to baste the bottom part of this, securing that pocket lining to the bottom. We're not doing the top of it yet. So again, start at the top stitching of that hidden flap that's going over the zipper. And baste all the way around to the other side, starting and stopping at that top stitching that we had done. And that'll secure the lining to the bottom part as well as that hangover flap. Okay, and then we're going to fold the exterior down like so, and we're going to go ahead and sew across the lining panels with 1/4 inch seam allowance just across the back lining panels of that pocket like so. And then you can go ahead and fold that exterior piece back up and then top stitch down those top short sides just to hold everything in place. Okay, so I went ahead and I installed my nameplate there. Admire your work for our front panel done. Looks so pretty. Okay, now we are going to work on the back panel. So I have my my zipper facing here. I'm going to measure 1 inch in from each side to create my rectangle for my zipper. Once we have the rectangle drawn from those short ends there, we're going to measure in 1/2 inch and do another line. And then in between those lines, we're going to measure up to the center of there, which is about 1/4 inch, and then draw our V's out to the outside line. Next, we're going to take our exterior back panel, find our top and bottom centers. And we are going to use our rulers to help with the placement of this because it's on a slight angle. So from this top right corner, you want this to be going in a meeting at 1/2 inch like so, but we also want it to follow the lines of the right side. So I have my other 1 inch ruler marked at the 1/2 inch, so I get the nice angle on here, making sure it's 1/2 inch in from that top. And within that rectangle that we just drew, I'm going to secure with some pins. Doesn't matter if we put holes there because we will be cutting this away. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to change into our standard foot now, and then we're going to sew around that rectangle that we drew. Okay, once that's done, I am going to take my rotary cutter just to start the cut here in the middle, then go back in with my scissors, cut to those 1/2 inch lines, and then cut into your V's as close as you can to the stitching without cutting the stitching. And then we're going to take this facing and stuff it through that hole that we just cut, bringing the facing and the exterior wrong sides together. And then from this side, we're going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a press to hold that in place. Okay, so that's done, and we have our zipper hole here. Next, we're going to prepare our zipper. Actually, first, I'm going to go ahead, and you can do this on a domestic machine as well. Just make sure you keep the double-sided tape outside of where we will be top stitching at 1/8 of an inch. So I am placing it at about 1/4 inch mark. That will be how we secure the tape in this for easier sewing. So now I'm going to take my back lining piece for my zipper pocket. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on each side. Again, use clips if you don't want to use the double-sided tape. I'm going to take my zipper, put it right sides up on the lining, which is also right side up, and stick it in place. Then we're going to go ahead and sew that with a 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch seam allowance just to baste it on. Once that is done, we're going to take the tape off of the other end of this panel and then kind of fold up the panel so the unsewn side of the zipper tape matches it, bringing that lining right sides together. Make it nice and even and sew that in place as well. So now we want to cut apart this loop, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to just cut this lining in half like so, enabling us to give this a good press and butterfly this out and press the tape nice and flat. Okay, so now you want to make sure you have your zipper orientated right. You want your zipper pull closing towards the top of our back panel. I'm going to take off one part of our zipper tape, or of our double-sided tape here, and I'm going to line it up where I want it to be on the zipper tape or zipper teeth, making sure it's nice and straight. Once you have that where you like it, go ahead and take the tape off of the other side and line it up where you want it to lay on the bottom side of our zipper tape. Again, on a domestic, you can do this. You've kept that tape outside of where we will be top stitching this in the 1/8 of an inch range, so you should be good. This just really helps hold it in place. We're going to top stitch around that with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Again, make sure your lining pieces are butterflied out from one another, otherwise you will be sewing that zipper pocket shut. You don't want to do that. So go ahead. I'm pulling my threads long because I don't want to have a backstitch mark there. So I did not backstitch. I pulled my threads long. I will be pulling that through here momentarily, working my way around. Once I get a little ways around, I'm going to tug on that bobbin thread to pull my top thread through and then continue around the rest of the way. Now, as we start coming back to where we started, we want to make sure our last stitch ends with our needle in the same hole that we started with. I usually end up hand cranking just so I have a little bit more control where my needle lands. Once you get it in that last hole, pull it out, pull your threads long, hold on to them so you know which one is your bobbin thread. Yank on that bobbin thread to pull that top thread through, and then you can go ahead and tie those 4 strands off with 3 or 4 knots. And this gives us a nice seamless top stitch around that zipper without a buildup of thread from back stitching. So you can see our pocketed zipper work. Now we want to pull our lining right sides together like so, and we are going to go ahead and we're going to sew as close as we can to our stitching all the way around to close off that pocket. So I like to put my presser foot right up against where the zipper stitching almost was, so our pocket is nice and tight all the way around the back, and then back up again, getting nice and close to where our zipper attaches. And then go ahead and trim up those seam allowances along the top facing there and the sides, especially where our zipper is there. We don't want that getting in the way of our stitching later on. So you want to make sure that zipper is definitely cut out of those seam allowances like so. And that is back panel done. Okay, now we're going to work on our connectors. We're going to do this similar to what we did with that accent piece. I have my center marked at the 1 inch mark. I'm going to use a double-sided tape along each of the long sides. Again, use clips if you prefer, and fold those long sides into that center line. Now we can go ahead and we can top stitch those folded sides with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and chain stitch these to save on some thread and cutting time. Next, what we want to do is on one of the short ends, go ahead and install your strap connectors like I've done here. On the opposite end, you want to measure down 3 inches, flip these over so wrong side is up, put a little bit of double-sided tape outside of the seam allowances at the top like so. Now take your rectangular ring, or in the pattern it's D-rings because she has removable crossbody strap. I'm not doing mine as removable, but put your ring, D-ring or rectangular ring at that 3-inch mark, fold the connector wrong sides together upon itself like so, using the double-sided tape to hold that in place. Make sure they are the same length. Now we're going to work on our gussets. You're going to take the 2 longer of the short edges and put them right sides together and go ahead and sew across here with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Next, we want to press that seam flat. Again, this is vinyl, so I don't want to melt my vinyl. I'm going to use double-sided tape. If you've used some cotton, go ahead and press this open flat, or do as I'm doing if your machine can handle the tape. Press that seam nice and flat. And then we're going to go ahead on this side and top stitch down each side of that seam. Now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and put in my Decovil Heavy piece here just to add some security to the bottom. I'm going to find the long side centers of this to help me center this nicely. I'm going to go ahead and fuse this on, making sure I'm matching up my center marks with that center seam. And that is complete. Now we want to find the centers of the short sides of our gussets. This is going to help us with the placement of our connectors. So once that's center, you want to measure down as per the pattern instructions. I believe it was 1/4 of an inch, might have been 1/2 inch. I don't remember right now. I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape here to hold this in place, and along that line, that nice centered line, I believe that was a 1/2 inch we measured down. We're going to put the fold of that connector up nice and snug to that line we drew, and then we're going to go ahead and we are just going to top stitch that in place as close to the hardware as we can for both sides. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to install my left zipper foot. This is the zipper foot I like to use to get nice and close to that hardware, because we can put the one side right up against the hardware and it will stitch right next to it. So that is what I'm doing now, going from the side top stitches to the other side top stitches. So we have a nice even line staying within the connector. I am back stitching for security there and doing the same on the opposite side. Now I went ahead and I installed 3 rivets there for extra security, back to scraps of Decovil Heavy on both sides. And now it's time to start putting together our exterior. So I have my front main panel here, and the centers have already been marked. So we're going to mark or match up the bottom centers of one side of our gusset piece and our exterior front, and then put the long ends up and match it up to the tops. And once you have those 3 points secured, you can go ahead and start evenly distributing the fabric in between those sections and securing with clips. Now you may find that when you get to these bottom curves that it looks like our gusset is not going to go around those curves. So what we need to do is we need to put some very small snips at about 1/4 of an inch or so or less, or a scant 1/4 of an inch, into just the gusset pieces. And what this is going to do is help spread that fabric around that corner so it fits. Just like so. And clip that in place, and you'll do the same with the other corner. And then we're going to go ahead and sew all the way around here with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So at this point, I'm going back to my standard foot just so I have a little bit more control, as the gussets in this shape of a bag tend to want to move around a little bit. You may find that using a stiletto here, especially around those corners, may help keep a nice and even seam allowance. Okay, once that is done, I'm going to just around these corners take my pinking shears and trim the seam allowances down there just to help get nice shape when we turn this out. And then you're going to repeat the same process with the back panel, putting this right sides together and doing the same thing, which I have done here. And now we get to work on our zipper teeth, our top zipper. So I don't have my pull on here right now. You'll see how I did the 90-degree just like we did before. On the back side, on the opposite side, you want to take your ruler and draw a 1-inch line. That's going to help us get our zipper pull on nice and straight at the end. Pull your zipper apart. Now we want to measure in from those side panels, 1/2 inch. I'm going to actually just put a small snip so I see what they are. You can also mark it with a pen if you like. On all 4 of those sections, you want to make sure they're nice and even, those little snips. This is going to be where we start and stop our zipper tape. So once again, 1/2 inch from each of those side seams. Okay, now we want to take our zipper teeth. You want to make sure it's going right sides together with the exterior side. And we are going to start with it to the, I'm working on putting this on my, actually if you turn it out, that's what I discovered. Turn it out so you have a little bit better visual of which direction you want your tape to close in. This was my thought process here, obviously. All right, so I have my front up. I want my zipper to close to the left. So I'm taking my zipper tape, putting it right sides together with the exterior with that 90-degree angle going to the left. And we are going to clip this in place, starting at that notch on that left-hand side. Clip it all the way to the notch on the right-hand side. And once you reach that notch, you're going to want to veer your zipper tail down, because we don't want to sew it all the way in the seam here. We want it to end up veering down like so. So I'm at that 1/2 inch mark, putting in a clip, and then I'm veering my tail down, and I'm actually going to clip it to my connector here just to hold it going the direction I want, and go ahead and baste that in place. Do the same with the other side. So I'm just basting these in place with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance for now. And I found I'm actually sewing right here from the inside side of the bag. I actually have my zipper against the machine bed. It was just a lot easier to sew it in place this way. I found I had a little more control to make sure that that zipper tape was not shifting. And there we go. Okay, so that is done. You kind of want to make sure that we still line up when it's nice and centered, and my tape does. Now we're going to work on our lining. So I already went ahead and I did my zipper pockets as per the way I always do them. If you need classes on that, it's down below. Make sure you leave your zipper pocket open like this, and go ahead and put these together almost very similar to how we did the exterior with a few changes. So you're going to take the side that has your slip pocket piece. Once again, find the centers of the top of your gussets. Now, what we're going to do on this one piece is we are going to leave an opening in our gusset, roughly about this big. We are not going to be sewing through that part. That is going to be our turning hole. Go ahead and match the centers, clipping this exactly like we did with the exterior. Again, we're doing this on the one with the slip pocket because we will be closing up the bottom through our zipper pocket. So you want it to be on the opening to be on the opposite side that your zipper pocket's on. Once this is done, to about 2.5 to 3 inches down, we're going to do a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, branch out to a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, stop at that opening, that open hole, and do the same up the other side, leaving at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, just like so. And what that does is make it so we have the same circumference at the top, but made the lining a little bit smaller, so the lining will not be floppy inside the bag. I've gone ahead and just done it all the way around on the opposite end, so we have an opening on one end and the other side is completely closed. Take your exterior of your bag, put it right sides together with that lining. We're going to start matching up our centers. Make sure your zipper tails get tucked way down. You don't want to accidentally be sewing those into the seam. I like to start with my exterior main and exterior lining centers, put in 2 or 3 clips to hold that in place. Do the same with the other side. Making sure your zipper tape is nice and straight and not folding up. Your zipper tails are down and out of the way. Go to your side gusset centers, match them up and match up those seams. I'm just going to nest my seams together with my exterior seams facing towards the gusset and my lining seams facing towards the main panels. And go ahead and clip it all the way around. Okay, so that is done. I'm going to take this to my machine and I'm once again going to sew from the inside here, and we are going to go around this with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now, to get a nice straight top zipper, this is crucial. Make sure you put on your right zipper foot. This is going to help us be nice and close to our zipper tape. It's going to give us a lot more control, and it's going to almost ensure that we have a nice and straight zipper, because we do not want a wavy zipper on top. Top zippers are hard to get them nice and straight, but I found if you put a zipper foot on, you are going to do well. So go ahead and sew all the way around there with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, being very aware of where your zipper teeth are, making sure you're keeping that seam nice and even, as straight as you possibly can. Once that is done, just have another look, make sure you're nice and straight, and if you like what you see, go ahead and turn it through that opening in the lining right side out. Press out all of those seams nice and tight. Remember, there's minimal interfacing in here, so this is kind of a slouchy bag. That is what we want. Go ahead and stuff your lining inside and finger press that seam all around the zipper. Now, I was originally going to go ahead and clip all the way here to hold that seam in place. That's what you see me do here. It works really well on the sides where there is no zipper, but I found that it wasn't working so good to do that around the zipper because it was kind of compressing the zipper. So I'm going to finger press it as I go when I take this to my cylinder arm to top stitch.
Now, if you do have a free arm, that is amazing for top stitching. You could also turn this bag inside out on a flatbed and top stitch from the inside to give you a little more control. I'm going to go ahead and do it on my cylinder arm here. And again, I'm going to press the lining and the exterior seams along the zipper as I go section by section to make sure everything stays nice and straight. And we are going to top stitch this with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way around. Once that top stitching is done, we can go ahead and we can close up the bottom of the bag. So I'm going to reach in through that zipper pocket opening, reach in and grab the opening in the lining, pull it through that zipper pocket, clip that opening's raw edges in place, and then we will sew that shut from the start and stop stitch lines that we did when we did the lining pieces with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go ahead and stuff that lining back through that zipper pocket. Take a peek in, make sure you got everything you did. Pull out that zipper pocket lining, fold in those raw edges if you haven't already. Clip it in place and go ahead and top stitch that pocket piece closed. Once that is done, go ahead and stuff that lining piece back in. Okay, so this is what we have. So now all that's left to do, I've already put my zipper pull on, and this is why I drew that 1 inch line. So when I went to put my zipper pull on, as long as that line matched up, I know my zipper is straight. Fingers crossed my zipper isn't wavy. And I did a pretty good job. It turned out pretty good. A little bit of a wave there, but not too noticeable. Once you're happy with how your zipper is, go ahead and trim up your zipper tape and install your metal zipper end. As well as go ahead and if you are not doing a detachable crossbody, go ahead and put that on. So our zipper is done. My zipper is done here. I connected my crossbody strap. And we're done.
All right, how did you guys like that sew? It's a really fun sew. I really enjoyed learning how to do that hidden pocket there. It's such, I don't know, I wish I could get my mind to think the way that Melissa's does. Anyways, if you like this tutorial, please do give me a thumbs up. A thumbs up goes a long way for us people here on YouTube. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you'd like to support my channel further, you can always buy me a coffee. That link is down below in the description. And if it interests you and you want to join any of my sew along classes, that link is down below as well. Anyways, until the next one, I'll see you again. Bye.